Okay, so since we were here last time, some decisions were made. Sorry, let me clean up some of my shit here. Since we were here last time, some decisions were made. I decided I wanted to go ahead and black out this side. And that's what it looks like now. I think it looks really good. So I went ahead and pulled the other fork arm off. We're going to black it out to match, so that everything looks nice. So that's what this will be, a session of sanding, priming, and painting. What I'm using to sand with is some 2000 grit wet dry sandpaper. There's a lot of crap on this thing, but sandpaper should take it all off. So let's get started, shall we?
Much later.
Alright, so from here we just go out and, well, we gotta tape it up, but then we go out and give it a quick shot. And that should do the trick. Alright, now I'm going to take it outside, hit it with a quick shot of, lovely, got fork oil all over my pants. Anyway, hit it with a quick shot of primer, I'll be right back.
Because if you're going to establish an aim, why not establish like a really good aim? That's a good one. It's good for you, it's good for everyone else. Yes. Okay, that'll give your life some meaning. Now adopt, make a plan. Generate a vision. That's what the Future Authoring Program helps people with. Develop a vision of what your life could be like if it was worth living, despite all its suffering. It's like, what would you need so that you would be happy to be alive? You'd find your life meaningful, so you don't get all bitter and resentful and cruel and hostile and ideologically addled and like murderous and genocidal. It's like none of that. You think real hard. How would you have to configure your life so that despite its suffering and the malevolence that's part of it, that you would regard it as worthwhile? So that's up to you to develop a vision. Then put a plan into practice. And so when I talk to people about this, and most of my audiences are young men, it's probably about 65, 35. More and more women are showing up, but that's about what it is right now. The halls are dead silent. You can hear a pin drop. Because nobody's said so clearly for like 50 years that almost all the meaning that you will need to get you through the hard times of your life is going to be a consequence of adopting responsibility. Not of rights and impulsive action. Impulsive freedom. Like, fine, rights, yeah, got it. Freedom, no problem. Even freedom to do impulsive things, fine. But that isn't where you're going to find the meaning that keeps you sustained through the storms of life. That's going to be, you take care of yourself, you take care of your intimate partner, you take care of your damn family. You don't run off. You take care of your community. You rescue the wisdom from the past. You stand up straight and you be courageous despite the fact that life is tragic and tainted by malevolence. It's like that's ancient wisdom. That's what that is.
And understanding that there's structure and discipline, and that, I am in a lot of ways both of those things you described earlier. In a lot of ways, my mind is creative, and I'm always sort of half paying attention to things. But I'm also disciplined.
Yeah, right.
And it's one of the reasons why I think I so relate to both sides of this issue.
Yeah,
because I could.
It's also one of the reasons you're successful.
Yeah, I could have easily been some hardcore right-wing asshole. I'm a competition-oriented person.
Yeah.
I've been since I was a child.
Yeah.
I grew up competing in martial arts tournaments. And you have to be a hard person to do that.
Yeah.
You have to understand what discipline is. But before that, I was an artist. I wanted to be a cartoonist. I wanted to do comic books. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an illustrator. If it wasn't for one bad teacher in high school that totally shied me away from art, I probably would have went into that as a living. Mm-hmm. When I look at both sides, I see myself in both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing I've been telling young men is that, and this is something I think that you could relate to tremendously, is I read this New Testament line, well, decades ago, and I could never understand it. The line is, the meek shall inherit the earth. And I thought, there's something wrong with that line. It just doesn't make sense to me. Meek just doesn't seem to me to be a moral virtue. And so I did a series of biblical lectures this year, like 15 of them, and that was also a weird little experience that we can talk about. But I was looking through these sayings, these maxims, and that was one of them. The meek shall inherit the earth. But I've been using this site called Bible Hub, and it's very interesting. It's organized very interesting. So you have a biblical line, and then they have like 3 pages of commentary on each line. And so because people have commented on every verse in the Bible, like to a degree that's almost unimaginable, so you can look and see all the interpretations and all the translations and get some sense of what the genuine meaning might be. And the line, the meek shall inherit the earth, meek is not a good translation, or the word has moved in the 300 years or so since it was translated. What it means is this: those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. And that's another thing I've been telling you. Yeah, no kidding. That's a lot different, man. That's a big difference. It's so great. And so, like, one of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
Do you know the expression, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war?
Right, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And so when I tell young men that, they think, well, lots of them are competitive. They're low in agreeableness, you know, because that's part of being competitive temperamentally. It's like, is there something wrong with being competitive? There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with cheating. There's something wrong with being a tyrant. There's something wrong with winning unfairly. All of those things are bad, but you don't want people to win? What's the difference between trying to win and striving? You want to eradicate striving?
Well, it's the uncomfortable feeling that people associate with losing. When they've personally experienced it, they look at losing as they've been oppressed or they've been hurt. But what they don't understand is that is the motivation for growth. And one of the most beautiful things that I think a young person can get involved in is martial arts, because martial arts teach you that in a way that very few things do. They teach you it in, especially jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is so complex and there's so many possibilities to it that it attracts a lot of really smart people. If you think of jiu-jitsu, you would think of like brutish individuals engaging in this hard martial art. If you go to a real good jiu-jitsu school, you see nerds. Mm-hmm. You see a bunch of like really smart kids that really get obsessed with the possibilities of this physical language. This physical language also teaches you the consequences of not working hard, of not being prepared.
$220 milliliters. My wife sees this, she's going to shoot me, by the way. hard part. Okay. Now, this is the side I actually haven't undone yet. I've just drained all the fluid out of it, to the best of my ability at least, without taking it all the way apart. That's kind of about where I figured it would be. Okay. Once again, pull the top spring. Get a little ahead of ourselves because I have not measured out the 220 milliliters. So let's hold this up while we measure that out, I guess. There we go. Once again, 220 milliliters. Well, you won't be able to accurately see that on the screen.
I can say, okay, I'm hungry now, but it looks like you ate the pizza.
Well, that's fine.
Your pineapple looks like it died.
No, it's not.
Huh?
It's not. She didn't notice the measuring cup. She's about to, though. Alright. See, that's not too tough. A little bit of effort. You're good to go. Now once we connect the air lines between them, that'll seal up the chambers. And all will be right with the world. Okay. Next up, put the fork back on. Alright, so now I'm putting the fork back on. This is going to take a bit of ingenuitive thinking, I bet. Possibly some interesting holding techniques. To be in a certain spot. Not, damn it, what'd I do? Oh, there it is. Ugh. Aha. So, if I can get this guy up roughly where I need it. Just needed a tiny bit of tension on it, that's all. This side, the nut is stripped, so I have to go after the bolt side and hold the nut with some pliers. There we go. Oh, wait. That one needs to be loosened back up. It's not aimed the right direction for the airline. Before we get too much into tightening shit up, let's just go ahead and put that airline back on. Put this side on first. Right about there. Now I screw in the little fitting here on the other side. And I can spin the shock out so it's easier to get a hold of. Put this guy on. Grab our little 10mm wrench. Tighten these two little guys down real good. Spring. And it's 12. 12. Okay. Good. Now, when we put the handlebars back up, yeah, see, these lines can't be tangled up in all that mess. I'm not really sure I agree with how these throttle cables are routed, but whatever. Can sort that out another time. that done, we can get hold of these pliers. Can pick up on this shock a little bit. Going this way. There we go. Right. Next, we just got to tighten up these other two pinch clamps, and the fork is officially back on. So I'm not going to waste your time with that. I'll come back as we put the handlebars together.